Hello, this is Mr. Abear, and I'm going to tell you about expressions, equations, simplifying, solving, and some of the properties of equality. An expression is any combination of math that stands for a number, such as x, or x plus 2, or 4 times x, which we write 4x, or 4x plus 3, or even this very complicated expression. It still stands for just one number. Expressions do not have an equal symbol. If the math that you're looking at has an equal symbol, then it's not called an expression, it's called an equation. Equations are math sentences, a statement that one thing is equal to another. Specifically, we have an expression on each side of the equation. So this equation says that x is equal to 3. This one says that half of y cubed is equal to 4. These equations have expressions on both sides of the equal symbol, and they are math sentences. You simplify expressions. When you see the direction simplify, that means that you're going to state the same expression but in its simplest form. So if we had the expression 24 over 3, we would simplify that by writing 8, because 24 divided by 3 is 8. You solve equations. So whereas you simplify expressions, you solve equations. And the way that you do that is to tell the value of the variable in the equation. When you see the directions solve, that means tell me the value of the variable. So for example, we have this equation, x plus 1 equals 4, and the variable here is x. And this equation means that some number named x, if you add 1 to it, you get 4. So that tells you that the number x is equal to 3, and to solve it you would write x equals 3. To review, expressions are math that stand for a number. Equations are math sentences that have an equal symbol. You simplify expressions by stating them in their simplest form, and you solve equations by telling the value of the variable. We use properties of real numbers to solve equations. Today we're going to specifically talk about the properties of equality. These properties tell us ways that we are allowed to change equations in order to help us solve them. Now, these properties of equality are really important, but they aren't as useful in solving equations. So there's the reflexive property that says that a number is equal to itself. Duh. There's also the symmetric property that says if A equals B, then B also equals A, something you probably already knew. And there's the transitive property that says if one thing is equal to another, and the other is equal to a third thing, then the one thing is also equal to the third thing. Interesting properties, valuable, but they won't help us solve equations. These will. These properties of equality are the most important ideas in algebra. It takes a while to read and understand what it really means. So you can read the addition property. If A is equal to B, then A plus C equals B plus C. But what does it really mean? Take a look at this side. This side has an equation. And then on this side, we have the same equation except that both sides of the equation have plus C. The addition property means that you can add some number to both sides of an equation. Similarly, the subtraction property says that you can subtract some number from both sides of an equation. This is really important, as you will see in a minute. But the key thing is you have to subtract the same number from both sides. The multiplication property is similar. It states that you may multiply both sides of an equation by the same number. And the division property states that you may divide both sides of an equation by the same number. We'll see how that works to solve some equations. Here's an example of how we could use the subtraction property. Say we have this equation, x plus 17 is equal to 24. We want to solve this equation, which means we want to tell the value of x. So to use the subtraction property to solve it, we'll subtract the number 17 from both sides of the equation. Now, if you simplify this side of the equation, we'll start with x, add 17 and subtract 17, and that leaves us back with x. If we simplify this side of the equation, the expression 24 minus 17 is equal to 7. So we just write x equals 7. And this equation means the same thing as this equation, but it more clearly states that the value of x is 7. So we call this solved. Similarly, we could use the multiplication property. If we're given the equation 1/2 of x is equal to 7, then we can use the multiplication property to multiply both sides by 2. 2 times 1/2 of x is equal to 2 times 7. Now this gives us 2 times 1/2, which means 1 times x. So we just write x on this side. This side gives us 2 times 7, which means 14. So to simplify this expression, we write 14. Now we've got x equals 14, which is solved. Here's an example of how we could use the substitution property. Suppose we're given two facts. X is equal to 14, and y is equal to x minus 13. The substitution property tells us that if we know the value of x, we can substitute that value, 14, anywhere where we see x. So to use the substitution property, we rewrite this equation using 14 in place of x. And now we can simplify this side, 14 minus 13, and reveal that y is equal to 1. All of those are ways that we can use the properties to solve equations. So let's review. Expressions are math that stand for a number. Equations are math sentences that include an equal symbol. You simplify expressions, you solve equations. And you can use the properties of real numbers, specifically some of the properties of equalities, to solve equations. All right, that's it. Thank you.